All right, we've got some breaking news out of the United States. A federal judge has thrown out the cases against both James Comey, the former director of the FBI, as well as Letitia James, the Attorney General for New York. Both of them had been targeted by President Trump in different cases against them, criminal cases. But now the judge in this case is saying that the Attorney General who brought those charges, that person was appointed unlawfully to the job, and so the cases are being thrown out. It's not clear yet whether or not the Trump administration may appeal, but it is certainly a setback for the president. He has personally targeted James Comey a number of times, as well as Letitia James, for criminal cases she brought against him. Let's bring in Eric Ham, CTV News political analyst, for more reaction to this. Eric, what do you think?
Well, yeah, it's a stunning development. And of course, now this pits the White House, the Justice Department against the courts. And we know President Trump has certainly made his disdain and displeasure for the courts known. The question now becomes, how, in fact, will the president proceed? Now, this is not the first time this has happened. We know another attorney, Alina Hababa, has also been removed from her position, and many of those cases in New Jersey are also now in legal limbo. But again, this is one instance where we're seeing, at least for now, the separation of powers and checks and balances actually playing out. It's unclear, however, if the president is going to actually take this laying down.
All right, so just to back up here, because as you know, it can get a little confusing. Both of these people were targeted. This would seem to be a dismissal based on a procedure. In other words, it's not about the merit of the case. It's about who brought the case and how that person was put into her position, as the judge is saying, in an inappropriate manner. Correct?
Yes, and let's go back, because initially the judge who actually ruled in both of these cases, and she wrote separate rulings for both the Comey case as well as the Letitia James case, dismissing the charges without prejudice, meaning that the Justice Department can actually bring these charges again against both of these individuals if and when a person is appropriately appointed to this position. Now, Donald Trump initially removed the person that he appointed to this position, and what Comey was arguing is that Halligan was actually put in this position improperly because it was up to the judges to actually appoint someone to independently serve until Donald Trump was able to nominate someone who was then confirmed by the Senate to actually serve in this position. Eric Siebert, who was initially in that position, had not been confirmed by the Senate, and therefore the court, and Comey's argument was that therefore the court itself, not Donald Trump, needed to actually appoint someone who would actually see to these actual investigations and prosecutions of both Comey and James.
Yeah, we're showing James, Letitia James, as well as James Comey as well. And in the Letitia James case, it was about so-called mortgage fraud. In the case of James Comey, it was allegations that he had lied to Congress 5 years ago. We know that interim attorney, Lindsay Halligan, you mentioned her in Virginia, the judge saying that her appointment was invalid. There was another issue as well that was considered to be pretty bizarre, in which the grand jury indictment against James Comey, the final version, was not properly shown to the grand jury. That would seem to suggest that even if the Trump administration is able to get this case again, there will be yet more reasons for a judge to potentially dismiss the one against James Comey anyway, if the grand jury wasn't even presented with the case properly.
That's absolutely correct. There are so many issues of process and procedure that have to be addressed before this case can go forward to a trial. And it's unclear if it'll actually get there. But in addition to that, we know that already Donald Trump is looking at more adversaries and political enemies that he is looking to bring cases against. But what we're seeing right now, while the president has had a very good run, at least when it comes to the Supreme Court, going after his actual political enemies, what we are seeing here is the president is not doing well at all on this front.
Is this an example of sloppiness and inexperience on the part of some of these, legal teams that are fighting on behalf of the president?
That's absolutely the case. In fact, what we are seeing is a number of the independent U.S. attorneys who are looking at these cases have stated that there simply was not enough evidence there to either bring a case or to get a conviction in either the Comey case, the Letitia James case, and possibly the Senator Adam Schiff case. But nevertheless, what we have seen, very much like what we saw with Richard Nixon, is Donald Trump has simply gone through enough U.S. attorneys until he has gotten someone who would actually bring a case that he has wanted. And in this instance, Lindsay Halligan, who served as his former personal attorney, was appointed to this position. And as we see, she's actually doing the president's bidding, but not to any success whatsoever, because not only has the case been dismissed, but all throughout this process, we have seen the judge continuously slap down Halligan for a number of very sloppy procedural errors that she has continued to make throughout this case. And it's important to note that she's never actually tried a case at all, which is making this even more difficult for her.
Eric Ham with his take on this breaking news. The cases have been dismissed against James Comey and Letitia James. We'll see what the next step is. Thanks for this, Eric.
You bet. Thank you.